Okay. Good morning, Judith,
Good morning, Sonia. How are you?
and welcome to the Coach's Cup. I'm
Cheers.
good. It's Friday.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I
So
forgot.
we realized last week that we started and we didn't really tell you a whole lot about ourselves. We have a ton to talk about today that I think you're going to find interesting. It kind of builds on what we did last week, but we want to step back for just a minute and tell you a little bit about how we got here.
Mhm.
So, Judith, you want to go first?
How did we get here?
Yeah.
So, 3 years ago, my personal health was at, how far back are we going?
That's as good a place to start as any.
I was about 80 pounds heavier than I am now. And I had just found out my mother has dementia. And I realized that I kept hearing information about vitamin D deficiency and the correlation with dementia. And I knew enough about my health that I had been chronically deficient in vitamin D. So 80 pounds heavier, chronically deficient in vitamin D, I was on a personal wellness quest and came across some information that led me to a website of Corinne Crabtree's, and it was for Fit and Fat. Now it's known as No BS. And through her program, I absolutely fell in love with every word that dripped out of her mouth. I knew that what she was saying was the truth, and it was no BS, literally. And so through her program, I lost my weight, regained my health, and really developed a passion for thought work.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up at the life coach school where I met you. How was that? Was that a nice
Yeah,
short
that's great. I'm
applique?
trying. I was trying to think, can I wrap mine up that nicely? Because when I think about it, we met in a similar way, like you said, but um, mine really goes back to me being about 30 years old. I had two children, under two at the time, and I had always wanted to be a college professor, but after I had gotten my master's, I really got off track with my life, and I was in, an unfulfilling marriage. Had these two babies, was working part time. I was taking a cake decorating class, which is hilarious if you know me very well, because I had all of this creativity that I was, needing to do something with. I was reading Oprah's book list, her book club list. Like I was just reading down through it, trying to, stimulate my brain. And one of my colleagues, one day after I finished teaching, she walked in my office and closed the door and said, "Listen, it's time for you to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for you to get your PhD."
Mm-hmm.
And giving me permission to do that was just a life-changing moment. I didn't realize, of course, as we usually don't, how life-changing it was, but I was able to really redirect my life at that point. Um, I went back to school. I mean, the very next year, I applied immediately. I took what she said to heart, and I have been building on that, and you have steps forward, you have steps back, but it's been now almost a 20-year journey since then. um and I feel like every year gets a little better. Every year I figure out a little more about myself. I decided to go to the life coach school also because of Corinne and No BS. um I think when you hear the message that they have about how you have responsibility for your brain and your thoughts, and you figure out you have that kind of power in life, um, it, what a gift, right?
Right. So
And
good.
so, finding that was like the real the second turning point that I needed. So I had a few more curves, I guess, that I.
Well, if I'm going to spin off yours a little bit, a part of my story that I a similar path as yours is that I was a psychology major with a concentration in health. And so through going through the No BS with Corinne and learning about the Life Coach School, it really brought full circle my passion that I'd had for 30 years. You know, I'd been a stay-at-home mom, and I'd put my hopes and dreams we're raising my kids.
Yeah.
And so I was on a similar path. Like it was just
Mm-hmm.
connected the dots, my desire for my personal health and my personal mental health, and now to help others on their journey. It just makes it full
Yeah.
circle.
I think women are asked, or not asked, we are expected, or we have that expectation
Mm,
so many times that we can't overreach our boundaries. If we're a mother,
yeah.
there's all this guilt associated with. I had some other women who said really ugly things to me when I went back to get my
Mm,
PhD.
mm,
Women that I was close to, women that I thought would have had my back through anything, said some terrible things to me
mm.
because I had young children and I made the decision to go back to school. Um, and what's the purpose of that?
I have no answer for that one.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no purpose.
So what part of our goal with this podcast is to build women up and let you know that whenever you decide, whatever you decide, that power, we want to give the power to you because we've had the power given to us, and it's very freeing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
part of that power we talked about last week is figuring out your mind with the model.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the questions that I get a lot from clients is, well, okay, so you've got a model, but where does that come from? Where do you get your thoughts? How do you know what you're thinking? And it's silly. It almost sounds silly to ask, how do you know what you're thinking? But many times, especially if we've been doing this for years, we have thoughts way down in there that we don't even know about.
So true. Even listening to you say it, the thought of explaining how simple this really is, it's the sentences going on in your head at
Yeah.
at any given time.
Yeah.
Any given time. I so the other day, we talked about last week, I believe we touched on, the human brain can have like 50 to 60,000 thoughts a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did the math on this. I thought, well, okay, I took the low number, 50,000, divided it by 24 hours, divided it by 60 minutes. That's roughly 34 thoughts a minute we have. And so the sentences are just opinions that our brain is offering up at any
Yeah.
moment. Just a
And
sentence.
we're Southern, so our thoughts are moving more slowly than.
But maybe a little more dramatically.
Yeah, right, exactly. So think about somebody from a different state that doesn't have that Southern drawl. It's moving even faster.
Right. It's so funny to think about.
All right. So in that, we wanted to talk about thought downloads. You want to get us started, Judith?
I do. Okay, so and Brooke talks about, I'm going to use this because I think it's like a perfect example that we can all relate to, is if you were going to clean your closet out, right? So you have a closet, you live putting things in and out of the closet, but really to get your closet cleaned out, you need to go into the closet and just take everything out, empty the closet, just empty the closet. And that's what you want to do with your thought download, or why you want to do it, because it allows you to empty your mind and empty the clutter. Just think of it that simply. We're just getting the clutter out. That's all.
Yeah.
Clean the closet.
Yeah. And so what we've got for you today, and it's just some tips that you need to follow to do, why you need to do a daily thought download, because a lot of clients give me some pushback on this. They're like, I don't have time. When am I going to do this? Why would I sit, I don't have time to journal. Some people are natural journalers. I wasn't. I am now. but it's hard to get people to understand why they need to do that.
Yeah, they have
So
thoughts. They have thoughts about life. Their
they have
thought
thoughts
downloads.
about thoughts. Yeah. 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 So you've talked about how it empties your mind. Um, I like to keep a record of it for personal development.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, I brought some of mine. I use whatever I have on hand. So last year, this is from last year, what I was keeping up with my thought downloads in. And then my daughter, my sweet daughter, got me this one that I'm using now.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that pretty? Um, and and then there's one in between that I filled up. So if you do it daily, you're going to keep quite a bit. But it's interesting to look back. It's very informal. Nobody else looks at it. Nobody else in this house cares about my thoughts. But it's nice to look back and see how my thoughts have changed in the last year. One example that I know is that a year ago, I've been on a weight loss journey and have lost 50 pounds over the last year. And a thought that I was really having trouble, that I was really having trouble with is that I just want it when I'm looking at food, and I just want it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't move past that. For months, I journaled about that because I thought, how am I going to answer? I just want it. And now, a year later, that's not something that I ever think. That's a thought that I've worked through, I figured out, and I've moved on. So this helps you record for personal development, and it's sometimes nice to look back and see, especially when you're maybe having a low moment, look back and see how far you've come.
That's such a good point. I love that you have that for referencing.
Yeah.
What I like about the thought downloads is it allows me to take action. Like I can see what's going on paper. I can put it in a model, and I can go from my mind into action, which is my favorite thing. I think I said that last week.
Yeah.
I'm able to identify and move,
Yeah.
get it done.
Yeah. And another reason that I really like to do it is because it lets you tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And it lets you reframe your story, which is the best part. So yeah, this whole process is about taking responsibility. And it's easy to have your story be some kind of victim, to write about, oh, my husband didn't do anything to help me with this issue, or he's trying to fix me, or my boss was just a pain today. But this allows you to reframe your story.
Mm-hmm.
You go to write it down in your brain. You can, once it's out there on the page, you can see, oh, well, maybe I'm not the victim of this story. How can I make myself the hero of this story? Or at least not the victim.
Not the victim. Or drop perspective on your boss. Or
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Brings your dreams to life. When you write things down, it's one thing to carry it around in your head and go around thinking it. But when you write your dreams down on paper and you write them daily, you are so much more likely to get to your goals, get to your dreams. And that for me has been, again, on my own weight loss journey, asking myself important questions that I draw from my thoughts. Like, does this thought serve me?
Yeah.
Things like it helps me bring my goals to life.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I think if you're on any kind of quest, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to stop drinking, stop over shopping, any of those things, we all have we'll talk about
Why would we stop shopping?
Well, stop shopping maybe, but stop our reasons for shopping. It can help really see what's driving that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons, or any of these reasons are great ones to spend that time every day. And it doesn't even take that long. I mean, we're talking what, 10 minutes maybe?
Oh, tops. I think even if you just started out with 1 or 2 minutes,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to write all the sentences and tell a story. It's a thought. It's one sentence, a bullet point. Thoughts you're thinking in the moment.
Yeah, different people think different ways. That's another thing I've noticed from this. Some people think in bullet points.
Yeah.
And some people think in more of a narrative.
Yeah.
But there's no right or wrong way, because it's just getting it out of your brain.
Sometimes, for the longest time, I wrote the stories. I was like, what am I doing? And, what in the world? And would need the journal prompts, which journal prompts can help you focus in on an area of your life that you're searching for your thoughts, because you may not be aware of your thoughts. It's just questions to ask your brain.
Yeah.
Dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Anything
what
more?
to do with the thoughts? What to do? How are we going to do this?
All right. So the first thing, now you have your thought download. You've spent a couple minutes writing, and you have, your page full of text. What do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got 3 questions that we usually ask to help decide, because, this is about taking responsibility. So at this point, you get to decide things like, number 1, is that thought serving me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, going back to the closet reference,
Yeah.
if you go into your closet and you pull out a shirt and it has a stain on it, is this shirt really serving me? Or I don't know, like, do I need to keep this anymore? You have a choice. Most of us, I think we're going to choose, oh, well, this can go over here in my work shirt pile, or it's going in the garbage,
Right.
type thing. And you can do the same thing with your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. The next one is, do I want to keep it? Maybe it passes the serving me because you think it sometimes, but do you want to keep it there? Do you want to keep it in your closet?
Right, holding up space. So what if it's something, it's beautiful, you do love it, but you never wear it because it, I don't know, whatever reason, you just it's just taking up space in your brain.
Yeah.
So just like taking up space in your closet. If you want to simplify, let's just get rid of that. Just get rid of that thought.
I had a client actually this week that I was coaching, and she was doing some Monday morning quarterbacking. We love to look back and say, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? And I told her, I said, okay, we can follow this path if you want, but what's that really doing to keep this thought loop going in your brain of, should I have done this differently? That's a classic one that's not serving.
Right.
That we all do at some point. And so do you want to keep it? No. Why would you keep that? Why would you keep replaying those questions in your head when you can't change a situation? So that's an example of a thought that I always want to just say, nope, not thinking that, done with that, moving forward.
Yeah. I love that you can pull these references out like that. You're so good, Sonia.
Well, that one just hit me. I wasn't planning that. It just hit me.
So the third question you can ask yourself when, and I don't know if we explained like the method, a little bit of the method to the madness on your thought downloading, writing it out. And if you just circle the facts, right? Did we talk about that?
But circling, so just realize is a good way.
Circling the facts, and then looking at what your thought is about the fact, really kind of isolating.
And if you want to understand more about what we mean by facts, last week's episode is where you need to go and figure it out, because it's not necessarily what you think is a fact.
Oh boy. Yeah. And this, and I want to encourage anyone listening to not give up on this concept. It takes time for your brain to process it, because your brain you've got to kind of wiggle that tooth and get it loose to start accepting this into your brain. And when you see it, it's like it comes in like a flood. But the third question to ask yourself when you're looking at your thoughts is it current or outdated? And again, here I go back to the closet. I'm like, is it 1986 and metallic? Or is it current? Is it 2020? And
although some in 1986 is coming back.
well,
Yeah.
not for me.
No, not for me either.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of having that thought, like, is this current thought serving me in this moment? And being able to make the decision if this is what you want to carry forward, if you're going into a job interview, or if you're going into your morning with your thoughts about the scale.
Yeah.
Is this current or outdated? Is
Yeah.
this an old thought or a good one?
Yeah, and that's probably something that I have done the most work on, like just in the last month or so, is I had some thoughts that weren't serving me. I didn't want to keep them, and they were so outdated. And just looking at them and knowing I can get rid of them is helpful.
Yeah.
I just want to say a quick word just to kind of bring this in and apply. You mentioned if you're going on a job interview, if you're new to this, I think it's really helpful when you can apply it directly. So let's say we have a listener who has a job interview and they're nervous, as people are when they go into interviews. If you could spend just a few minutes writing down all of your thoughts about why you're nervous and what you think might happen, automatically emptying your brain like that, you would be amazed at the space it creates for thoughts that you want to have.
I love that you've brought this up, because for me, when I do this, I get such a grounded feeling now. Like when I do my thought download and I'm able to see it, it's a very centered feeling and in control for maybe, but not in a controlling way. It's just such a grounded boom.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are out of time. So what information do you have? Yeah. What kind of, we're going to leave them with a nugget, you say, of information. I'm going to look at that like a gold nugget.
Not to get too deep. My thought was, I was pretty open about my journey with anxiety and depression in our first episode. So for me, while my daughter is just texting me away. I'm sorry for the dinging on my phone. I don't know how to turn that off. So what was curious to me while going through the life coach school, and where I was, was that I was able to, can you hear her? I mean,
No,
look at this.
I don't hear anything.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, it is seriously like 15 texts in a row. It's my watch that I can't turn off. What I want to say is that for me, I was doing the work, I was doing the thought downloads, and I was getting coached. And at some point, after about 6 weeks, and confiding in a friend who is a medical professional, like, I realized that when I was writing and doing the work, that I was still living and feeling like I couldn't separate myself from the feelings and the thoughts that I was having, that I realized that it was time to take this to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And get medical help with my condition. And so I never would have believed it in the moment, because I believed every thought that I was writing, and they were not good thoughts.
Right.
And I could not.
Yeah.
I could make a model. I know what I should be thinking and how to get over there, and I know how to bridge, and I know how to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very helpful.
Yeah, just being able to reflect in that way on what your brain is putting out there. Sometimes it's surprising, and sometimes that's giving you the information you need to move forward. It's always giving you the information you need to move forward. You just may have to move forward in different ways.
It was an invaluable tool for me to go to my doctor and explain what I was doing and what I was feeling, and what being stuck in where I was at and what I was feeling, and able to show him. It was awesome. Very powerful.
All right. Well,
How about you?
um, I've forgotten what I was going to say here, but we're way over time, so I think I'm going to end there. We're trying to get this in a 20-minute, but you get us talking together, and it's really difficult to do that. So maybe we'll get it down to 20 minutes one of these days. Maybe we won't. Next week, we're going to talk more about thought work and how we use the thought downloads to separate facts from thoughts. So if you need a little more clarity on that, if the whole picture is still a little fuzzy, then tune in next week.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Judith. See you later.